Hi, sorry I'm late.
No
Are we
problem.
waiting for others?
We are waiting for you.
Oh, gosh.
No, he said you were downstairs,
Yeah.
so I thought we can
I
wait a couple
Ubered
minutes
in.
till you came up.
It's the worst Uber I've ever had. Probably smell like cigarette smoke. It's so gross.
All right, with the arrival of our clerk, I think we can get started.
I apologize for being late.
I understand.
Dependent on an Uber this morning.
Yeah. Chairman Infantine was unable to make it this morning, so I have the pleasure of chairing the final meeting of the Labor Committee for this term.
And I had words for him before we left.
You know, he told me that was why he didn't come in today, so I'm kidding. Of course. So to start us off, Representative Susie, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. I don't have a bed.
Representative Orrs, you are a substitute, do you know for whom?
I do not.
I guess I could take roll real quick and we'll fill them in as we go. I don't know.
Why don't we, since I just said that Will won't be here, you could put him in there, just call him after Lino and call me at the end, in
Okay.
case there's a tie to be broken.
We have a sub here too.
And you have a sub, yes.
What is his name?
Orrs.
Spell
It's
it?
A.
Mark's not here. How about anybody else on your side that's not here?
Let's see. Who's missing? Mason's not here. And Granger's not
Well, at least it's
Not
even
as few as you used to be.
3 on each side, a sub for 1 each. Okay.
All right, I think we have our attendance squared away here, so we'll get started on our business. As everyone, I'm sure, knows, we have 4 bills that we voted to interim study, and now we're here to address those bills. Just so everyone's clear on what we're doing today, our vote today will be either to recommend for future legislation or to not recommend. Unlike a bill during the regular session, this isn't a minority majority report. Whichever we vote to do, we will write a blurb for the calendar that explains why we voted the way we did. I was reminded by our committee assistant that we're close to the due date for the calendar, so whoever makes the motion and writes the blurb, I'd ask you if you're going to handwrite something, if you could do it before you leave. If you want to send in something electronically, please send it to me as soon as possible. I guess if you do want to go home and work on it at night, if you can have it to me by noon tomorrow, that would really be helpful to make our deadlines. So with that said, we'll move on to the first bill, HB 1007. This is relative to the notice of terms and conditions of remote work arrangements. Representative Prout, you have a motion.
I move to not recommend for future legislation.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to
Oh.
have a bipartisan representation here, and Representative Cahill has seconded. So this is Representative Prout, and we'll make this Cahill. And Representative Prout, if you'd like to speak to your motion.
Thank you. I don't really see the need for this bill, or really what this bill will accomplish. There's no prohibition against an employer and employee entering into a written agreement for regarding remote work now. There's also no prohibition in this bill or otherwise against an employer changing or revoking a remote work agreement, and this bill doesn't limit that either. Not that I would like it if it did. By forcing an agreement to be made and written down, it kind of locks in all parties, which may not be desirable. Part of the benefits of remote work is flexibility. See, I have a laptop in front of me. Before the hearing gabbled in, I was doing some work. This is just how life is becoming these days. And if something comes up that's outside the agreement, now it has to be edited and reapproved through whatever process, or it's invalid, or you're just... the status quo doesn't match the agreement, which can bring in its own problems. And that's just all adding a lot of work without, I don't think, an identified benefit. And so that's the reason, at least with what's been discussed so far regarding this bill, what's in this bill, what's been discussed, I don't see why it would be a good thing to recommend for future legislation.
Thank you. Representative Cahill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as my colleague, Mr. Prout, acknowledged, and as we had in the hearing way back in January, this is the thing today. And so many people are working remotely, and it is best practices to have an understanding with flexibility, between the employer and the employee, that this is what we're doing now, and it could change because this happens or that happens. But it's a good thing to talk about, but I don't think we need to legislate it. Thank you.
Representative Baruti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. People have been working remotely for a lot longer than we think. A young lady friend of mine has been doing it for 15 years for the hospital. She's got a pretty big job and she works from home. Never had a problem. My son does work with people all around the country. He's working from home without a problem. His employer just offered him a new contract, and it's unbelievable. So I think when you work from home, it's performance-based. Either you do the job or you don't. And it's not like working, we all have to work together and get along and play nice. I think that when you're on your own to either sink or swim. You either do the job or you don't. And I don't see a need for legislation on this. We're seeing a lot more of it, and maybe down the road we'll have to do something, but I don't think now's the time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, if you could call the roll.
Representative Avalani,
Yes.
Rep Prout,
Yes.
Rep Love,
Yes.
Rep Ors,
Yes.
Rep Colcom,
Yes.
Rep Trago,
Yes.
Rep Partial,
Yes.
Rep Baruti.
Yes.
I should have listed you first right then, sorry. Rep Cahill,
Yes.
Acting Ranking Dem Susi,
Yes.
Rep Bouchard,
Yes.
the clerk votes yes. Rep Leclerc,
Yes.
Rep Staub,
Yes.
and Mr. Chair.
Yes.
$15 to 0. I thought we had an even number.
Who's making?
14-15. No, that's right.
Write his name, but we'll make it a joint effort. All right, thank you very much. That was easy. Let's move along. Next up, HB 1023, which is relative to requiring employers to provide notice of resources available to support veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. And I'll start this off by looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move not to recommend.
Thank you. Is there a second? Representative Drago. Which? Drago. Okay. For the last day, I think I'll try to get it right. Do you want me to comment on this, or would you like to speak to it?
It's completely up to the chairman.
All right, I will introduce this, and if you have something to add. So we held this bill, if the members of the committee remember, because the sponsors submitted two versions of the bill, one in the Senate, one in the House. And it was their preference that they focus on the Senate version. And since we hadn't gotten that yet, we thought it prudent, rather than to ITL the bill and can create some kind of confusing message, that we'd interim study it with the intention that we'd work on the Senate bill. We did indeed get the Senate bill. We passed it. It has been signed by the governor. So the reason that I think we want to not recommend this bill is that it's already in law and is not necessary. Representative Avalani, if you have any further?
That is fantastic, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Representative Brody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't remember what was passed by the Senate. It's like a couple of years ago, as far as I'm thinking. But I'm a very active member with the Legion, and I know that they were watching this, and I already told them that I was going to further recommend something, so I'm going to go that route. When it comes to veterans, and especially PTSD, we have some members that have it, and it's always worth looking at as far as I'm concerned.
So the Senate bill, to answer your question, was Senate Bill 588. I did not check word for word to see if it was, the two versions were identical. I recall they were substantially the same, at least, if not the same bill. And again, I think the key point here is that we did pass this language in this term, and it has been signed by the governor, and it is law. I understand your comment that we can always look to see if we have further deficiencies in how we're taking care of our veterans. But in terms of this specific bill, I think the House has taken care of it by passing the Senate version. Other members of the committee, Representative Partial.
Thank you so much. I do see the Senate version was amended, and many of my concerns about the House bill, the way it was written, seem to be answered in the Senate bill. So I will be voting with the recommendation.
Thank you. I don't know if it would be helpful to any of the members to go into a bit of detail on what was in the Senate bill and what was improved about it. If I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you have further comment, members might find it helpful.
One particular aspect of it is that the Labor Commissioner, in consultation with the Department of Business and Economic Affairs and the Office of Workforce Opportunity, shall create and distribute to employees a Veterans Benefit Service notice or poster. In the House version, that says one would be created. Here, they have an actual clear path of who's responsible for that. I don't know. I'm still concerned about posting it. The penalty for noncompliance, I think probably most of your noncompliance is going to come from this ignorance, not from willful neglect. So I'm really questioning whether or not we need a warning system before we start finding people. But this does, but I'm very happy with this particular situation.
And I will respond to that. Members of this committee, especially those of us that have been here a number of terms, recall that in fact we modified the way labor penalties and the fines apply so that in the exception of generally failure to pay wages, any non-compliance is first addressed with a warning, and only on repeated offenses does it go to a fine.
Sounds reasonable. Thank you.
Further comments? Representative Susi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Someone who's actually now serving on the Commission to Study PTSD for First Responders, I would have to agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that I think the legislation at this point, if it's already been signed into law, I think if there is an issue later on, the bill can be looked at again, the legislation can be looked at again, and it can be tweaked somewhere, but I'm happy with the way it is, so I'll be voting in favor. Thank you.
Further comments? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Rep. Villani, excuse me.
Yes.
Rep. Prout.
Yes.
Rep. Love. Yes. Rep. Ors.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Drago.
Yes.
Acting Ranking Demsusi.
Yes.
Rep. Barudi.
No.
Rep. Cahill.
Yes.
Rep. Partial.
Yes.
Rep. Bouchard.
Yes.
The clerk votes no. Rep. Leclerc.
Yes.
Rep. Staub. Yes. And Acting Chair Seaworth.
Yes.
That would be 13 to 2.
All right, thank you very much. Let us move along to HB 1226. This is relative to employment protections for freelance employees. And does anyone have a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to not recommend this for future legislation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Representative Prout has seconded. Would you again like me to start out by refreshing the committee's memory with what this is?
That would be fantastic.
This was a bill that was submitted to address the situation of what the bill called freelance employees, and wanted to extend to this class of worker some protections that are due statutory employees. In our discussions at the time, I think the committee, certainly a majority of the committee, I don't know if it was everyone, but was not in favor of the bill. To me, the simplest explanation is that freelancers are not employees, they're independent contractors. If a freelancer wants the protection due an employee, they should seek employment, and then the law covers them. I think there's a concern that if we start to blur that distinction between an independent contractor and employee, we're going to recreate the problems that we've spent years trying to fix with employee misclassification. The reason we didn't simply ITL this bill is that the sponsor was asked to work with the Department of Labor to see what in the existing laws and rules might apply to the situation and help the individuals that the law sought to benefit. I have not heard that meetings took place, but we wanted to have an interim study to be a forum if necessary. So for that reason, I think we didn't support this bill back in the spring when we first had it. I think for the reasons that I just stated, it makes sense to not recommend a future version. Representative Susi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Representative Sullivan advised us that he's talked to the prime sponsor, and there really hasn't been much work on it. So the prime sponsor pretty much says that it's not ready for prime time. So we'd support the no further legislation. Thank you.
Any other members wish to comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Rep. Avalani,
Yes.
Rep. Prout,
Yes.
Rep. Love,
Yes.
Rep. Ars,
Yes.
Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Drago,
Yes.
Acting Ranking Demsusi,
Yes.
Rep. Barudi,
Yes.
Rep. Cahill,
Yes.
Rep. Bouchard.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Rep. Leclerc,
Yes.
Rep. Staub,
Yes.
and Mr. Chair,
Yes,
15-0.
very good. Let's,
Did I skip you?
oh no.
I counted you. Oh, well.
Okay,
Partial, how shall you vote?
as you addressed, yes.
I apologize.
Oh, that's okay.
You doing the blurb?
Yes, how, with,
On the next page.
we'll put the name of the, that was you. No, you did. Yeah, so we'll put your name on it, but I'll write something for you. Last but not least, a favorite of mine this term, HB 1597 relative to the maximum weekly unemployment benefit amount. Representative Avalani, you have a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to not recommend at this time.
Is there a second? Representative Cahill has seconded.
You want to do it? You want me to do it?
Why don't you say your piece and then I'll jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Turn your mic on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As everybody has known, this only deals with the part-time benefit that would allow part-time work before unemployment wages are reduced. As we were looking through the year, we had two bills coming over that were going to overhaul the unemployment system and change their ratios and numbers. And we were looking at this prior to that happening, which we couldn't get the numbers for because everything was in flux. I think it should be looked at together down the road when we're making changes to the full unemployment system, and then look at the part-time unemployment system. That way the numbers will work in a very cohesive manner. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I will agree with everything the representative said. I think to me, the motion to not recommend is not a, we're not saying that this is not something to be looked at. As some of the members know, I did spend a lot of time with this. I like the concept, but the majority of the committee found the original concept, which was to have some kind of partial sharing between what the employee keeps from part-time work and what comes out of your unemployment benefits check, was too complicated. And when we get complicated, we might incentivize things that we didn't intend to incentivize. So the committee, several of the members had some simpler ideas that might work, but as the representative explained, I don't think it makes sense to do this outside of addressing the unemployment benefit as a whole, because if you make changes to one, but you don't know what the changes are going to be to the other, then you can't predict the effect. So in writing this up, I think we want to explain that the concept is worth looking at, but in the context of the bigger picture of, and to put it simply, we haven't updated the tables that specify how much unemployment benefit you get for, I think 18 years was the number that I remember, and it really needs to be looked at again in light of what inflation has done. I think when we sent this to interim study, we fully expected that there was a bipartisan version that was going to come through. That didn't happen, but I certainly expect to see that work continue in the next term. Any other members wish to comment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Rep. Avalani,
Yes.
Rep. Prout,
Yes.
Rep. Love,
Yes.
Rep. Ars,
Yes.
Rep. Colcom, Rep. Drago,
Yes.
Acting Ranking Dem Susi,
Yes.
Rep. Baruti,
Yes.
Rep. Cahill,
Yes.
Rep. Partial,
Yes.
Rep. Bouchard.
Yes.
The clerk votes yes. Rep. Leclerc,
Yes.
Rep. Staub,
Yes.
and Acting Chair Seaworth,
Yes.
15-0.
Very good. And with that, we have completed our business today in near record time. It's very exciting. I want to make one announcement before we all leave for the term. As some of you know, I am the representative from the House to the Workers' Compensation Advisory Council. And one of the things that was discussed during our last meeting a couple weeks ago now is that the workers' compensation rules are up for renewal. They've hit their 5-year period. So the department is going to be working on those, looking for things that need to be changed, redraft them. It will then go through a process once they come up with their draft. But just a heads up for anyone here who might be interested in things. Just a reminder that the rules are derived from the laws that we pass. So we haven't made any recent changes to workers' comp, so the department doesn't see anything major that they need to address, but they're going to go through everything and clean up any issues that they've seen. So with that, if nobody else has any other announcements or business to bring forward.
I'm curious to see who's not running again, just so we can say farewell.
So let's see a show of hands of anyone who is not running to come back again next term. It looks like
Holy cow, that's awesome.
that is good. So thank you all for your service on the Labor Committee. We like to joke that it's the best committee in the House, but we say that because we believe it. It has certainly been an honor to serve with everyone that's here on the committee and to serve with you in the House. I wish everybody the best of luck in your upcoming election, and thank you very much. I'd also like to thank Kristen in the back, our committee researcher, has been very helpful. And Jamie is in her office, but she's watching us in the video. So thank you too for all your help. And with that, I will.
Why belabor?
Hey, why belabor the point? Is this a motion?
No.
No? You have a
Comment.
comment? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to thank Representative Infantine and yourself for guiding us through the last 2 years. And to the Representative Susi and Sullivan as well for them working with us through some tough issues. Thank you. And the clerk, of course.
Representative Cahill.
Yeah, just a brief shout out to Will Infantine's mother, because I know she's watching.
If there's nothing else, I'll look to do we motion to adjourn? I think we
Yes, so,
do.
yeah.
So
I'll look
moved, Mr. Chairman.
And seconded? Without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
There.
That was easy.